Coming up on This Week in Trek, we have time travel shenanigans as we face off against the animated series, First Contact, and the fan films. All this and more on TWIT. So way back in the day, I actually used to watch the animated series of Star Trek. Back then it was on the Sci-Fi Channel, right after it first came out, well before most of their main lineup was cemented, and actually well before a lot of cable stations that are kind of standards actually existed. This was before Cartoon Network, and Nickelodeon was a very different channel than it is now, or even for the majority of my childhood. I didn't really remember it that well, honestly, and as I later got into Star Trek for real, this was really a series that I kind of glossed over. Rewatching the first season, I'm actually really amazed. It's a surprisingly serious series. I know Roddenberry felt some shame about it, but I think it's actually a pretty good piece. The animation's not fantastic. It's well before we got into, this is pre-DuckTales, which was seen as a huge step forward in animation in television. Hanna-Barbera had barely revolutionized the TV animated industry at that point anyway. Like, this was really cutting edge. But it doesn't hold up today. The only reason it would hold up today is for nostalgia's sake, not for anything else. The plots, however, are actually pretty good. The only, the weird problem about doing an animated series sometimes is that you can go too big, whereas with a live action show that has a low budget, you go really small. So like with an animated series, it's easy to draw a big room, so you don't have to really worry about people interacting with the walls and stuff, so that it's really easy to do the different matting. So we've got the cell that's up front, and that's the animation, and in the back is the big room. So that's a thing I could kind of tell. It's sort of the opposite of the original series, where it's better to have like a small room that everyone interacts with and has not a lot of big details. Here, it's better to go large and go broad. And the same can kind of be said about the actual science fiction involved. Almost everything is a broader, more effect-heavy science fiction, which is cool. Like, they couldn't do that with the original show. But it is a different vibe as a result. However, I have to say I'm really impressed with every episode. Even episodes that I thought might be kind of silly, like the episode where Spock goes back in time to meet his younger self, which has been aped in so many other mediums. It still holds up really well, and it was taken really seriously. The voice acting is great. I miss Chekhov, but everyone else being there is fantastic. Every now and then they introduce a few too many alien species that are a little too weird, or actually too basic. Like, there's two groups of bird people that have different names, despite the fact that it's clearly the same model. They've got cat people. All of this is like, okay, cool. Like, they weren't. The writing was pretty well done. The designs are a little basic, but I can't ask for too much. It's Star Trek, and it's 60s Star Trek. It's not even getting into the later year stuff. So the fact that they look like standards for like any kind of animated show, there's no one who wouldn't look like they couldn't fit in, like, Challenge of the Herculoids. But it's surprisingly a good series. I was really impressed. I've got season 2 coming up next week, but it's a much shorter season, so I'm looking forward to that. But I would say check it out. If you're liking Trek, it's actually a much better series than I had my preconceived notions about. So good on them. That's an impressive feat. As I'm going backwards through the Star Trek theatrical releases, I've now arrived at Star Trek First Contact. Now, this is easily the best of the next-gen movies. It's the second one to come out, although the first one, Generations, is more of a passing of the torch rather than a full-fledged next-gen movie unto itself. So First Contact is the first movie to introduce the Enterprise E, which will be the Enterprise that we see for the rest of the film series. It introduces the new uniforms that later became a staple of Deep Space Nine, as well as every time Voyager interacted with the Alpha Quadrant. it set up a lot about the Borg and was a huge movie. This was big. This came out shortly after Independence Day, and it felt just as cinematic and just as amazing. Rewatching it more recently, it's amazing. So I referenced before the Plinkett reviews, and they do actually a decent job of tearing apart this movie. But I don't think it ruins the movie. And they point out that this movie is not a bad movie. It does have problems. And the thing is, though, the problems that exist aren't ones that you can't unsee. Rewatching this movie, it is a good movie. The actors do a great job. This is easily the best movie in the Next Gen franchise. Guys who are not Trekkies, who, if they liked any Star Trek film before the 2009 one, they liked this one. You know, there are problems, and those were pointed out in the Plinkett reviews, but overall, the experience is fantastic. The special effects are great. The story is riveting. First Contact does a great job of filling in lots of the gaps of the history of the Federation and of Starfleet that, unless you really read a lot of the bonus material, like the novels and so forth, you wouldn't necessarily know. The series mentions it a lot of times, but they never go out of their way to have like a very special "This is the History" episode. This does everything it needed to be. This was a fantastic movie, and it launched a film franchise that unfortunately stumbled after it, but this was a great piece. Unlike Wrath of Khan, this movie actually works pretty well, even if you don't know the major players. While the backstory for all the characters is helpful and really sets up the drama, the archetypal nature of a lot of the next-gen characters shines through here, and this is a really easy to understand screenplay, even if you don't know the series and know everything. In fact, most of the complaints about First Contact are usually because people know the series too well and can cite problems throughout. But this is a really cinematic, action-packed movie that does a great job of keeping the sci-fi interesting, doing a really good job with it. If you have any interest in Trek and you have not seen First Contact, why are you watching this video? Go watch First Contact. It is a good movie. And in fact, rewatching it, I'm even more impressed by both the special effects and the acting. Ronald D. Moore, who wrote the script, and he was still working with Deep Space Nine at the time, so he was still playing an active role in the Star Trek universe. This wasn't like a one-off where he tried to subvert what the showrunners were doing at the time. He was a showrunner. Jonathan Frakes, Commander Riker, directed this and did a great job. This was his first theatrical release and easily the best work that I've seen him do. And I've seen Clockstoppers. So that speaks volume for the quality of First Contact. Honestly, go see it. I can't praise this movie enough. I don't have a whole lot to really nitpick about. The worst parts about it are honestly continuity issues. And those, again, this is a movie, just like the 2009 movie, the speed and pace and the quality, everything that's good about this movie allows you to oversee the problems that exist. All right, I want to take a minute to plug some friends of mine over at Starship Farragut. These are the guys who I owe everything to. I would not be the Star Trek fan that I am if it wasn't for this series. I came on board as an intern back in 2007, was able to... Oh, hey. Who's that guy?
The gas giant Solon. The Soloni, an ancient race of scholars and historians, have kept themselves at a distance from galactic politics and alliances for centuries. Now, for the first time, they have invited the Federation to meet with them. This is my first diplomatic mission as commander.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, that was me in 2007. Back then, I got brought on while they had already completed their location shooting, but was able to get a cameo on set at this perfect reconstruction of the Starship Enterprise, and was able to be a PA for the rest of the shoot for this. Now, since I moved to New York, I haven't been able to be as involved, but these guys love Star Trek. It was hanging out with them that really rekindled my love of Star Trek, because at the time, at first, it was like, yeah, I like Star Trek, sure, I'll come on board, but really, I recaptured all of my interest, got so into Trek and lore and so forth, through really hanging out with them, that I can't tell you how much I owe to them. Now, the video I want to plug right now, for want of a nail, is their second video, and It's a great time travel piece, keeping in theme for this video. The Starship Farragut, which is an established ship in the Star Trek universe, encounters a culture that has developed time travel, and time travel hijinks ensue involving the American Revolution. It's a great story. It worked out really well. It has a nice little stinger for potentially linking the mirror universe, which is kind of cool. And in general, the whole series is just a fun one. Like, the guys who have been working over there have been doing a great job creating really authentic to the 60s kind of style videos. And my hats are off to them. They have done a great job with it. All of them have been a great time. You guys should go check it out. I will talk about them and their other videos down the line. I wanted to plug this time travel episode because it's in theme for this episode, but also for the personal reasons that I have been doing a Star Trek podcast, and I have not paid tribute to the people who I owe my true love of Star Trek to. So there's that. So you guys should check it out. So StarshipFarragut.com. All right? So that's it for today. Next week we'll be back with the second season of the animated series. We'll be back with Star Trek Generations, and I will find something else from the internet to talk about in relation to Star Trek. So have a good one, guys. See you next time.